In this tutorial, we'll take a look at the work time reporting capabilities of Polarian. When you process a work item, you can record the time you spent working on it in the Time Spent field. Even if it's used for nothing else, recording time spent information along with estimated time gives your team or organization a picture of its time estimating and planning accuracy over time. But what if you have to devote several chunks of time to one work item in order to resolve it? That's not a problem. You can log what's called a work record for each chunk. If you're looking at the light form, which hides some fields, click the gold bar to show the normal form with all fields. Then scroll down to the Work Records section. And this is where you can log your different time chunks. To log a new work record, just click Edit. By default, the work record will be for you. If you have permissions to create work records for other users, you can do that simply by selecting a different user in the list. Specify the date when you worked on the item. The current date is entered by default, and there's a date picker if you need to set a different date. Then you enter the amount of time you spent working on the item. This is done in Polarian's time shorthand, and you can see here there's help for that if you're not familiar with it. Let's say 4 hours was spent on this date. Then specify the type of work you did. The values here are defined by the project administrator in the project configuration, so what you actually see on your system could be different. Lastly, you can enter a comment. Type and comment may or may not be required fields depending on the project configuration. In this project, type is required, comment is not. If you spent more time on different days and you just procrastinated about recording your time until Friday afternoon, you can add another row and enter all the blocks of time that you worked on this item. Notice the option to update time spent and remaining estimate fields. Assuming these fields do in fact matter to your project managers, this is a handy thing to keep checked. The aggregated time of all your work records for this item will be automatically used to update these fields when you save the changes. So you never have to remember to scroll up and do that. We've just seen how you can record work time in individual work items, and that time logging is available with all Polarian flavors and licenses. If you have Polarian ALM, you get another and very robust option for logging work time, the Timesheet tab. The advantage of this feature is that you can record time spent working on multiple work items during some period of time, all at the same time, without having to navigate into each individual item. This is especially handy if you need to report time on a weekly or monthly basis, for example. Let's look briefly at how the timesheet works. You can use the full power of Polarian's query engine to retrieve the work items you want to report time for. The graphical query builder is available to help you formulate a query to retrieve the work items you need to report on. For example, you might query for all items assigned to you for a given time point or whatever. Once you've retrieved some work items with a query, you can specify the period for which you want to report work time. By default, the scale is 1 month, but you can change that to anything you want by selecting the custom scale and then specifying the start and end dates of the time reporting period. Notice the checkbox options, which can do a little filtering of the list of retrieved work items. The Work Items with Work Records option limits the work items listed to only items which have existing work records, which can be useful for a variety of reasons. If you have collaborated with others on some work items and your colleagues have created work records for their time in those items, their work records are included in the view unless you check the My Work Records option. Assuming that you're using the timesheet to report your own time, you don't need any work records but your own, and that's what this option gives you and why it's checked by default. The rest, it's pretty simple. Just enter the amount of time you spent on each work item on a specific date. Then maybe at this stage you discover you forgot to create a work record for time spent on some item. If work records are the basis for billing clients or customers in your organization, then you'd really better create one. You'll be glad to know that you can do it right here from the timesheet. Just select the date and the work item, and then click New Work Record Info. The data fields in the dialog are the same as those in the Work Records section of the work item, which we saw earlier, so you can report time spent and create a work record for the selected work item all at once. When you're done entering time, click Save. If you have a lot of time to report, save often. For example, if a network glitch causes you to lose server connection after you just entered 30 time blocks, well, I need to say no more about that. Before we wrap up, there's one other feature that's closely related to what we've just seen: the ability to create reports about work time and export the information to Microsoft Excel. To do this, we go back to the Table tab, click Operations, and take Create Work Report. The Work Report dialog lets you specify properties of the report, most of which should be fairly obvious. The Overwrite Existing File option is good to check if you have previously created work reports and you want to save another report with the same file name. The most powerful thing here is the grouping field. You can group elements in the exported report in many different ways, from very simple to fairly complex. You'll want to experiment with this feature in different sets of work items to really get a feel for what your possibilities are with it. The resulting report can be edited and formatted in Excel to suit your needs. We hope you found this video useful. You can use the form below to let us know what you think or tell us about other tutorials you'd like for us to do. Or you can email us about anything at all at info@polarion.com.